All right, nice to see you all. Um, um, so we have this 2-hour session reserved for like a Guru Yoga practice of Guru Rinpoche called Skull Cup or Guru Rinpoche Skull Cup. And as you know, I have taught many different kinds of Guru Yoga practices, and it's common, you know. We can use any type of Guru-related visualization to tune in with the Guru. We can use mantras, we can use mudras. So these are just ways to get the charge going from the external level of Guru Yoga, external meaning like on the level of technique. We can use many kinds of technique to go into internal level, which means the energetic charge or energetic unity, energetic blending with the Guru. And there's of course the secret level, external, internal, and secret, which means Buddha nature itself. And there's of course, there's no difference between my Buddha nature and yours and Guru Rinpoche's. So there all techniques cease to, and all transmissions cease to exist. Behind me, I will lift the camera a little bit. There's a painting of Guru Rinpoche, and just like in most paintings of him, he's holding a skull, like a half a skull cup. Maybe you don't see it that well from this image, but you probably have seen it before. In Vajrayana Buddhism, practices take many different kinds of forms. And if we speak on the level of external, you can create very simple practices, and it will tap into that internal experience, and through the internal to the secret hidden experience. Or the external form of the practice can be very, very elaborate, very, very complex, like a big, you can create big ceremonies and rituals out from the same internal and secret principles, internal and secret aspects of the mind. So speaking of skull cups, you might know that actually both in Buddhist Tantra, now mostly practiced in Tibet or in Tibetan Buddhism, as well as in Hindu Tantra, there are all these tantric tools. And skull cup, which is actually the top of the skull of a dead person, they are used in practice. Just like there are, I also teach Chöd, this cutting through practice of Machig Labdron, although, in traditional Tibetan Chöd, they use these thigh bone trumpets, which is like a trumpet made of an actual thigh bone of a dead person. So they also use like a drum and a bell in Chöd. But in the Chöd that I teach, we don't use any of those, although they could be used. But also in this practice, Guru Rinpoche's skull cup, we don't need to have an actual skull cup of a dead person to do this practice. And that is actually, I think it's a little problematic for Western Tibetan Vajrayana practitioners to, because there is a reason why you use a thigh bone. There's a reason why you use a skull cup made of an actual skull. And it's very difficult to, where can you acquire a real thigh bone in the Western hemisphere? You really can't. So I guess that it's a little problematic for Tibetan Vajrayana practitioners in the West, because they have to replace their skull cups made of plastic and wood and so on. But fortunately, there is this, we can, as I said, we can formulate the practice, the external level, in a different way to access internal and secret. So the idea of Guru Rinpoche's skull cup is that we all have a skull cup right here in our head. And this is what we use in this practice through visualization. So it's mostly a, well, of course, first of all, when we approach a Mahasiddha, whether dead or alive, whether alive physically or not alive physically, we have to have sincerity and humbleness, sort of like going to them with a bowed head, with lowered head, with sincerity, with devotion, because that's kind of a key that unlocks the lock. When we approach the Guru with sincerity and devotion, it goes a long way. That's something that no Guru can resist. So that's why I said that it's kind of a fitting key for a lock. So first of all, when we sit down and feel our bodies and relax, and then we start shifting from there to the Guru Yoga practice, whether it's skull cup practice or some other form. Let's say, for example, only chanting Namo Guru Rinpoche or Vajra Guru mantra. We have to have this openness of mind and sincerity of heart to approach and access the presence, the aura or mandala, if you will, the mandala of the Guru. If we are cocky or arrogant, or we have pride, even in small degree, then it becomes a bit more difficult, because we always in Dharma practice, we have to be willing to see and admit our faults and mistakes. And if we somehow try to do our practice while having some insincerity or somehow having hidden motives or something, it won't work. It just won't. And this is actually why in all traditional yogic teachings, ethics and morals, like honesty, non-harming, are like a absolute necessity for any kind of practice. If you have insincerity, if you're not honest, if you harm yourself or others purposefully, even in subtle way, won't work so well. So that's good to remember about being honest and trying to benefit and help people and all beings rather than harm them in any way. So in Guru Rinpoche's skull cup, it's a very simple visualization, really. And also the Guru Mudra, those of you, and I think all of you here, have learned open heart yoga. And there is this Guru Mudra, where you join the tips of index fingers and thumbs very lightly, and then just relax this rest. So you do that in both hands. You can also do this, lock the two 2 circles, and then put your hands in your lap. Or you can do like this and put your hands on your knees. So mudra is one way to tune in with Guru Rinpoche. If you have the empowerment, it will do the trick. If you don't have the empowerment, it won't do the trick. And so in skull cup practice, it's mostly a visualization practice on the external level. Although we could also use chanting of Namo Guru Rinpoche or Vajra Guru mantra if we wanted, either aloud or silently in our mind. But I think that in this session we will mostly focus on the visualization aspect, get the charge, tune in with Guru Rinpoche's presence through visualization, because it's that visualization of the skull cup that is used as an ignition. So I think we will continue to practice. So take a good sitting posture. If at any point of your practice you feel numbing of legs or some other kind of discomfort or uncomfort, I don't remember which one, then you can change or adjust your posture. Please do that at any point. So the weight of our body rests on the sitting bones that are in the lower part of the buttocks, or at the meeting point of buttocks and thighs. So make sure that your spine is upright, rests nicely, like a skyscraper. Then, as the vertebrae of the spine are set, upright, just let all the meat of your body relax. Just let go of the meat. Let the meat hang, like in butcher shop. There's meat hanging. Let yours hang. Already, I would like to point out the knowing aspect of our experience right now. So what I mean by that is that when we sit here and let our, whether we are aware of the spine and the uprightness of it, or the meat hanging, meaning muscles relaxing, there in the midst of it, there is knowing of the spine, knowing of the meat hanging. There is knowingness. Recognizing this knowingness is Rigpa, known with this Tibetan term. And Rigpa, or Vidya in Sanskrit, it literally means knowledge, often translated as knowing. And that's the same knowing as the knowing of all Mahasiddhas. All Buddhas have that in common. What separates us samsaric beings from Buddhas, even though we have the same potential, is that we go in and out from this knowingness. And that this knowingness, this natural state, is not 100% It doesn't completely cover all of our mind. But we can, of course, accomplish that through practices, through the principle of vipassana. There is also immense joyfulness in this knowingness. Very light, very funny. There is life to it, dance to it. Exactly the same kind of aliveness or love, energy, as there is in nature, all living things in nature. That's why people like to go to forests, mountains, places like that, because it makes our mind shift. Nature makes it compelling for our mind can't stay in a samsaric condition in nature. So let your meat hang while knowing, while recognizing the wonderful, wonderful dancing of life in our body, in our breath, in everything surrounding us. Everything in us, in everything surrounding us. It's one complete aliveness that knows itself. This is ourselves as so-called, with the Oriental word, ourselves as Buddhas. So there's something very common and normal about Buddha mind. It is not an exalted state, it is not a divine state, not a state of a saint or sage, not a trance state. It's in the midst of all those states, including the samsaric state, or stressed mind, or traumatic mind. If and when we recognize this natural state, our recognition at that moment, we are not different from any of the Mahasiddhas. No different from Shakyamuni Buddha, no different from Guru Rinpoche, Yeshama. So let this very knowledge, this very understanding penetrate your muscles and bones and your subtle body made of channels and centers. In other words, make it penetrate your whole being. Surrender. Release. Release stress, tensions, while knowing. So we are not releasing to get somewhere. We are relaxing and releasing while knowing. Yes, very good. And there is love in this basic knowing, and in Rigpa. There is love in it. Feel it with each cell of your body, which are many. Feel that love. Love means magnetism, this utterly positive magnetism. Love that is selfless, has no hidden motives. I always point out when teaching, I point out these. So far, I have pointed two basic characteristics of the natural state, which are knowing or cognizance, and the second one is aliveness or love. The third one is rootedness, settledness, groundedness, meaning that this natural state is so, it's because it's not a thing. Things can be pushed over. Like even pyramids, if you use a big enough tool, even pyramids can be turned over. But since natural state, there is nothing in it that we can hold, there is no resistance. It is grounded in a way that, in a different way than things that can be turned over. Groundless ground. So I often talk about these three basic characteristics, and it's good for you to check these three in your own practice. But really, these three are not separate aspects, although they can be dissected and analyzed like this or recognized separately. But it's a one complete Buddha nature. One complete experience. That satisfies us to the bone, satisfies us entirely in the existential, from the existential point of view. Confusion disappears. Until it comes back again. And it keeps coming back as long as we have baggage. But when it comes back, if we lose entirely recognition of the natural state, then we are to recognize it again, cut through the mind, see through the mind. And when we have that recognition, then we should apply classical vipassana, becoming aware of what made us distracted or what made us confused. Our problem is that our samsaric condition is that samsara means going around in circles. So you more or less experience the same things in your mind from one day to another. We go around in circles. Sometimes it's just vague thoughts flying around that we identify with a little bit or possibly not at all. Sometimes some of these thoughts come with a, there is more charge in them. So we identify with them, there's a reaction, and we get irritated or angry or anxious or envious, greedy, or we come to desire something. That is what samsaric mind means. Going around in circles, going around in circles. But imagine if you didn't have any of that. If somehow your samsaric mind stopped existing. You could still think, you could still do things, you wouldn't become unable to think or to act, but you just wouldn't have any of that stuff anymore. No impulses, zero impulses. Mahasiddhahood, the definition of is that there is no blind spots where impulses can arise from. No blind spots. It's very close to, we can glimpse that state of no impulses just by imagining that we lose the ability to think and brood on things. Poof, gone. Just clear sky, filled with pure energy. You can dance in it, you can sing it, you can express it. You can live it, you can feel it. And that's all. It is that we as samsaric beings are seeking to, in quotes, attain. But already right now, it is not far away. When our mind drops off, it's there. Our own potential. Call it Buddha mind, Christ consciousness, Krishna, love of Krishna, whatever. So when you imagine that you suddenly lost the capacity to brood on things, that your samsaric mind just disappeared, imagine how you would feel about your life, your everyday life. How would you feel about the people who you spend your time with? How would you feel about your work? How would you feel about life in general? How would you feel about people who you meet, strangers? How would your life be different? Or how would it be the same? In one of our basic prayers, we chant, "May all beings be free." This is what the freedom there means. Without baggage, without rules and regulations and dogmas that have been fed to us, have been embedded into our minds since we were children and when we were young. Well, some of us still are young, but you understand. Completely free, without shame, without guilt, without doubt, without confusion about who you are and where you are. Through this direct experience, we can also understand something about our spiritual practice. We, in all yogic traditions, people sit a lot, but this sitting is it's just an easy circumstance to become aware of our mind. But when we mature in the recognition of our true nature, sitting kind of loses its uh, purpose in a sense. Because when you grow into it, when you have that recognition, uh, when you have Mahasiddhabhumis open, you just have it in common language. You just have it, although there's nothing to have and no one having it. So when I said that from this, if we didn't have mind at all, this ourselves as completely liberated, we become this creative force. We become free. And just like in our preliminary book, it is said, we can sing, we can play music, we can dance, we can practice other arts, we can exercise, we can sleep, we can express love to people who we love. We can express love with our companions. And it's a complete experience. Entirely full expression of our true being. So, in a sense, everything in life can be or is a preliminary. In the ultimate sense, all practices are preliminaries. Before we attain full and complete enlightenment, see through our samsaric mind entirely. In a sense, all exercises are preliminaries. They prepare us. They purify and clarify our samsaric mind. But the beauty of it is that anything can be used when we know what the experience is, when we know how the cookie or biscuit, how it tastes. We can get that taste through any situation or any experience. From your heart, inside your chest, feel the purity of your motivation, purity of your sincerity. So we are practicing. I'm contradicting myself now because we start practicing things. So I'm changing from the Ati Yoga or Dzogchen perspective to a relative perspective, where we are samsaric beings again with problems. Sorry to disappoint you, but we couldn't stay by imagining that we don't have mind. It wouldn't work very well. We have to be honest about that too. Some people completely screw themselves up by keeping the imagination up. But that's nonsense. So, utterly pure, sincere heart. This is what I started talking about, that when we start approaching any deity or any Buddha or any Mahasiddha, this is what we need to have. It's a precondition. So, reminding ourselves of our motivation. For Mahayana Buddhists, our motivation to practice is for ourselves to attain perfect enlightenment or Buddhahood, Anuttara Samyak Sambuddhi, for the sake of all sentient beings. This is why I practice. Feel that motivation. It opens your subtle body like cracking a coconut. May all beings be free. May all beings be free of suffering. May all beings be free of confusion. May all beings be nourished by their inner potential and secret potential. So when we express this motivation, so we are not practicing only for our own individual sake or purpose. We are practicing for everyone. Because we are all connected. So when we express that motivation, something shifts there. We are no longer practicing should I say, from the immature childish perspective of only experiencing peace or calm ourselves. We are grown-ups. We become grown-ups and understand that everybody except Mahasiddhas are also in trouble and pain and are confused. So we begin to turn into an embodiment of wisdom and compassion through simply expressing this motivation, through simply saying that prayer with meaning. It's not only that we begin to turn into the mother of wisdom, Prajnaparamita. We already become her. We become the source of wisdom and compassion. In Buddhism known as Prajnaparamita. Now, in that part of your subtle body, in your experience, I said that partially you already are it right now, each of you joining this session. Partly you already are it, and part of you is becoming this source of compassion and wisdom. That becoming part you feel as an energetic sensation of some kind. If you feel that, this feels so good, that's the becoming part. If you feel like as if your body was being massaged, that's the becoming part. Where there is no movement or sensation, that's where you already are. That's where there is no seeking or attaining anymore. How much are you becoming or how much you already are depends on your stage of practice. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. Saying it like you mean it. Not only lip service, not parroting. So like this, through very simple pointers, we become this pure being that everybody has as potential. Pure being. Feeling from that pure being, thinking from that pure being, making love from that pure being, working from that pure being. Everything from that pure being. And what's a really funny thing about this pure being is that as you have that recognition and you start thinking about, if purely on the level of your mind, we think of, as human beings, we think of what's the purpose and meaning of life. If when having that recognition of the pure being, you start thinking about what's the meaning of this, you realize that it's complete nonsense, this seeking of meaning. like especially in Zen tradition, Zen Buddhist tradition, you know, they say things like that. No purpose, no meaning, no attainment, no achievement, just empty. That's what emptiness means. No identity, no me, just pure being. It's like if you start thinking if the sky that is endlessly vast and clear started thinking about the meaning of life, you know, it's ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. When the nature of mind is pointed out and when the Dharma is shared, there is an element of transmission and there is an energetic element to all Dharma events, all of them. And sometimes that energy builds up high. There's a strong current. Stay with that current. Know it. Feel it. Just like a surfer surfs on waves, stay with it. You're not going over the wave, or you're not going down the wave. You're staying with it. You're surfing it. You're feeling it. How? With your body and your subtle body. With your bones and muscles. Okay, you can open your eyes, move your body a little bit. Let's take 5 for drink, toilet if needed.